Okay, Trans Am fans, it's time to talk to the big man on campus. No question about it. The man who has stolen the march on everybody so far in our E-Series is one and only Josh Hurley of California. He's with me now. And Josh, first of all, did you have any expectations of doing as well as you've done in such a short period of time on the E-game, or were you expecting this?
Oh, man. I was hoping you wouldn't ask that because, unfortunately, it's an egotistical answer. I was expecting to do pretty well because I have a decent, excuse the cat,
That's
I
okay.
have a decent sim background, so I was expecting to do pretty decent, and I've raced against a lot of these people in the real cars and have always been pretty decent. So give me a little more sim experience than some of them, and the fact that I raced with them in the real car, I kind of figured we'd be there. You'll never think you're going to come in and dominate, and we haven't. It's been a fight. I expected there to be a fight. I didn't necessarily expect it to be Casera because I didn't know how deep his sim experience is, which apparently it's not very, so I'm pretty impressed with him. Good job, bud.
Yeah,
But I knew it was going to be a fight, but I expected it to be in the top 3 or so, and then it's just a lot of luck. Do you get taken out, especially those reverse grid ones?
All right. Well, look, let's go straight into that. Well, let's talk about your sim background. What is it, and when did you start virtual racing?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I remember while I was racing slot cars, I remember racing a NASCAR sim, but I didn't have a wheel and keyboard, or didn't have a wheel and pedals. I had to try to drive it with a keyboard. And still, one of my proudest moments was actually winning a sim race with just driving with the keyboard, which, you know, if the steering just goes instantly to full steering, no steering, and the brakes, full brakes to no brakes, and gas to no gas, that was a very busy tapping time. So I was probably 6 or 7 then, but real sim stuff with actual wheels and pedals and prop sims. On that. In fact, my first car racing job, not go-karts, was actually as a data engineer on a DP car.
Yeah.
Because I knew Motec from another sim.
Yeah.
So they asked me, do I know Motec? I said, sure. And they asked me to demonstrate that I knew some Motec. So I'm like, yeah. Well, what cars you worked on? Well, none. So I've been around it a lot since then, even with iRacing. Like if you notice in iRacing, there's a Jetta TDI Cup car. Well, when I won the TDI Cup Championship, I brought VW and iRacing together because I knew people at both, and that's kind of it at some extent for a long time. Though I've also taken a couple of years off at one point. When we moved, we've moved back and forth between California and Florida a bunch. So resetting up a sim, and once I destroyed the sim, then I went for like 2 or 3 years without it. But now I'm on it. Though I'm not very good at living on it. I don't spend too long. You know, I get on there and maybe do a couple races. And truthfully, I race more NASCAR on it than anything else.
Yeah.
Partially because it's fixed setup. There's competitive people. You can get on there, keep the racecraft still sharp. Plus, it doesn't feel, well, I love road racing. I do, but I've been doing it for a living for a long time. So it feels like work, even on the sim. So doing NASCAR and doing something different, it's just more, I don't want to say it's more fun, but I can turn work mode off and just enjoy it, still having at least some work-centric part of it.
Well, Josh, as you know, I've been trying to help your competitors by spilling the beans on your secrets, and I've done on social media. I talked about the fact that you talked to me about how your slot car background actually helps with spatial awareness. Tell me a little bit about that and why you think that helps you in sim racing.
Yeah, in case you've never seen them, I wish I had one here. My dad has some because there's a couple of tracks here. They're about yay big, and actually, I was a factory driver in that from the ages of like 10 to 14. So I flew all around the country racing them, and just like an RC car, except without steering, you're driving these things, but you're not sitting in them. So you're going solely off of how it looks visually. You can't even really hear them because there's so many other ones. And if you go to a professional slot car race, you'll see something that looks bizarre, but it's very true. If you watch somebody's slot car and you see the car twitch, the person twitches. Because you're so focused on it, you can feel it without being in it. And that's a direct transfer to the sim because you're not sitting in the car. slot cars. I'm not sure if you've ever seen the professional level slot car. They're the fastest accelerating wheeled vehicles.
Oh
0 to
yeah, I've
100
seen them.
miles an hour.
I mean, it's actually how Lewis Hamilton started as well.
Yeah. So when I got into a go-kart for the first time, which took way too long, but finances are finances. When I first got into a go-kart in this first time, I'm like, come on. In a lot of levels that are really underrated and people don't think of it. I wish there was still more of it.
Well, look, let's hear about your rig, because that's your other secret, and I'm letting all these secrets go. But the perfect pedal is what you told me is the key to your success. Tell me about your overall setup, and then let's hone down on the brake.
Well, how about this? You want me to walk on in there? Because
let's do it.
Let's walk on in there. Hopefully the light is decent.
All right, Casera, listen up. JP Southern, I hope you're watching. This is it.
Here we go.
We're going behind the curtain with Hurley.
Let me put the light on. This is actually my racing room. You'll see there's a whole closet full of suits and all that jazz.
So you wear the suits during the race, huh?
No, I'm too hot for that. So let me see if I can actually get this thing aimed appropriately.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, so you can see pretty cruddy little monitor, because I knew I was going to go VR right away.
Oh, okay.
But not a bad little seat. And the seat, I'm one of these big believers that, tell me if I'm aimed actually down at it. The seat, I'm a big believer. I don't want to sit in a racing seat, because if any of you sat in a race car, it is not the most comfortable thing. So it's like a street car seat, but then real simple looking pedals are just the same Logitech pedals everyone has, with one exception. That brake is the perfect pedal. So if you ever press a Logitech pedal, you'll see, like, here's the Logitech brake pedal stock is like the gas pedal. You can see one finger, push it down, no problem. The brake, I can't move it.
Yeah.
But if I push real hard, I can move it a little bit. So it's really close. So not quite Formula Car brake forces, but it's really close.
And am I right in saying that Perfect Pedal actually were one of your sponsors at one point? So you've had a long-term relationship with them.
Yeah, I've had a very long-term relationship. I raced in IMSA with them, in an Audi, and a little bit in a VW, and actually in the LMP for a little bit.
Okay.
And he's a great friend. Gary Gibson does great work. He's a sim racer as well.
Okay.
And it's one of his many little businesses. But he still puts them out. And if someone is looking to get into sim racing inexpensively, Perfect Pedal is my favorite recommendation, because you can just take a basic Logitech inexpensive pedal set and convert it to something that's 80-20. 80% of the result, 20% of the cost, versus the really high-end pedal sets.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because Mark Miller said exactly the same thing. He wasn't talking about Perfect Pedal, but he said the only piece of equipment that really matters in sim racing is the brake. Because if you can get any kind of feel, it's everything else is different, but if you can get close to what you would actually be doing brake pressure wise in a real Trans Am car, then you've got a chance.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's just so hard. Anything that's off the shelf, like a Logitech, for people who are new to this out there, it's just a really light spring. So even just resting your foot on it, like just touching it, gives you 80% brake. So it's so hard and awkward. You feel like that teenager everywhere. So it's really hard. So yeah, definitely get yourselves a Perfect Pedal. Or if you want to spend a lot more money, there's tons of other pedal sets that are really fancy that do very similar things. In fact, I might be changing pedal sets soon, because my dad wants to start sim racing. So instead of buying 2 sets of pedals, I may buy a fancy set of pedals, and he may get my Perfect Pedal, and I may have something. It's actually really hard to find Logitech stuff now. All sim racing stuff is back ordered everywhere.
Yeah, I know it's a problem. I got the computer, but I haven't been able to get the hardware yet. I'm waiting for all you guys to upgrade, and then I'll buy your leftovers.
Exactly. So that's kind of what we're doing with my dad. Not that there's anything wrong with my Perfect Pedal. I've had it since 2011 or 12.
Wow.
And same set. So at least it shows you how reliable it is. I haven't changed it or replaced it since.
Well, Josh, tell me a little bit more about your real racing career, and also what has sprung out of that, which is instruction and engineering and so on and so forth. Tell me a little bit about your background.
So, as mentioned, slot cars was the real start. We actually won about everything there literally was to win 2 years in a row doing that. So then it became time to, how do I get in a real car? So parents couldn't even afford to really help me on starting karting or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, I had a great upbringing. I never wanted for anything. They just can't afford it. So I worked at a grocery store until I could buy a go-kart, and I got very, very fortunate. I grew up in South Florida, which, if you know anything about South Florida karting, it is extremely competitive. My first race, two of the people in front of me have been IndyCar drivers. So very competitive environment. And I went to Florida Winter Tour very early in my career. My fourth race ever was actually Florida Winter Tour. For those of you who don't know that, that's a national series essentially, because we're the only place that races in the winter. And I was working out of my pickup truck and working on this go-kart and go out there for practice and qualifying. The team I buy stuff from is going nuts after qualifying. Like, well, what's going on? Well, I qualified on the pole. So from then on, I was a works driver for a few different go-kart companies, which worked out really well for later in my career, because I also was one of the bigger data guys in karting early. So we were very data-driven on our kart setups with a few different chassis manufacturers, and that kind of set me up. And then I got stuck in an in-between kart and car world. I also, admittedly, I wasn't the best politician early, so I didn't get a chance to try the Skip Barber karting scholarship because I didn't understand how to work those relationships early. So we really missed out on that. But after that, I worked as a data engineer on a couple cars, stuff like that. Then the TDI Cup came around, and that was my big breakthrough, because that was the deal of a century for any racing driver. It was very inexpensive to do, had full TV coverage, a documentary about it. So finding legitimate sponsorship, not just, your friend owns a company, like you were actually able to give a return.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, and the prize package was over $250,000.
Wow.
So we did that. We won that. Had some very interesting politics after winning that. So it's made me a way better coach. I learned what not to do when you go to Europe on the political side. The driving side went great, but let's just say I had a big fight with a major manufacturer. So that didn't go
You need
so
a PhD to get into the politics of European racing.
Yeah, especially as an American.
Yeah.
So
yep.
Lesson learned. So came back, ran Conti for years, actually for APR through VW. Mm-hmm. And I was with them for a long time. And unfortunately, when they started to scale back from having professionals, I wasn't the best at working the paddock. That's my thing. I'm much more engineering driven than people driven. So unfortunately, I was left holding the bag. So started doing more and more coaching. I've even coached U.S. Special Forces and Department of State people. So I have a pretty weird coaching thing where I've done all sorts of different stuff. Sorry, checking on the dog. I have to let him in because he's going to start barking at me if I don't. So we went from there. Oh, and while I was running, the cat's good. She just hangs out. While I was doing TDI Cup, I was actually a race engineer in Conti at the same time. So I was driving one series and engineering another.
Yeah.
So that's usually my own.
You've got, clearly, and I was talking to Carl Rydquist. I feel like a lot of you guys with engineering backgrounds really understand how the sim works and how the sort of physics works. And, you being a data man and an engineer, there's quite a lot of thought process that goes on into understanding the difference between being fast in the real world and the difference between being fast on a sim.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I think I have to be careful with, sorry, replug in my laptop, is I overthink it really easy.
Yeah.
That's actually part of the reason I try to limit how much practice I do. If I just keep driving, I'll start overthinking and it gets worse. So I find that's part of the reason you see me limiting some of my practice. I find once I get the pace, I need to just stop and walk away, or I go too far down that route trying to optimize every little thing that you lose sort of, it's still a sport, you lose some of the flow.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason why I run, I think, less practice than most is I find I'm really susceptible to overthinking it. So I just need to let it flow to an extent. And the way I use the data like that is once I'm at the pace where I'm comfy, if I notice that I'm trying harder and getting worse, I pull up the data to see where I was trying harder and where I need to just stop and back things up. So that's kind of my process with it. The way other people do it, I know is a lot different, but I can't overthink it or actually do worse.
Tell me a little bit about the series so far. We've been to some very different circuits. Road Atlanta, Daytona, and obviously Laguna Seca. Barcelona, again, very different. And I will suppose that was a more level playing field because besides sort of Juan Manuel Correa, who got a fourth, Very few of you have probably raced there. I know that Carl Reicquist did a 24-hour race there, and he got on the podium. So what have you enjoyed? What have you really liked and taken away from it?
I mean, I was hoping for a different European track, but that's okay. Barcelona went great for me, so great. But I really enjoyed the race at Daytona, not so much the qualifying, a little bit of bad luck there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really have enjoyed racing with Casera way more than I thought I was going to going into this. I didn't necessarily think he was going to be the guy, let alone be as developed as he is. That's not a judgment. Just for someone who's done so little pro racing, I'm surprised he's been as challenging of a rival and as friendly of a rivalry. It's way more fun especially just having one person who you know is going to be the guy every time that you have to beat.
Yeah.
That makes it way more interesting than even it being a rotating cast from a view, because it's, okay, I have to beat him.
Yeah, and I get the feeling that there's a couple of youngsters, including one you're helping out in the real world, and also Tyler being so dogged in his pursuit of you.
Yeah.
You do manage to pull this off. You'll be it'll mean a lot to you, because these guys are not giving up. And in fact, you're frustrating the heck out of them. I know. I'm going to talk to JP Southern today, and he's in the mood to start winning. You know what Francis is doing, and Tyler Casser is like a dog with a bone.
Yeah, exactly. And I've raced against Ernie in the real car a few times, and that part's actually been great. It's very similar. That it was nice. I knew what I expected, so I think he'll get more challenging. But he has such a points hole to dig. Actually, that's my one real worry going forward is we all have to start racing in the real world at different times. I'm hoping I can make all the rounds.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm looking. I mean, I've already talked to the team about allowing me to do it. I'm looking at making a portable sim that I can bring with me if this happens. If it comes down to it, if I have to race in the trailer at a racetrack somewhere, we'll make it happen.
So tell me about your real world setup, and when we do go back to racing, how are you set?
This year, we don't know. I'm set up for a lot of coaching and a lot of engineering and a lot of testing. I do testing for teams and IMSA and SRO. Well, not SRO this year because I'm a part of the officialdom, so I don't race there. But interesting in Trans Am, but I have no firm race seat set yet. I have one inkling on an endurance thing that hopefully I'll appear, and we're trying really hard to get in a TA2 car, really hard. I have a team who really wants me there, and I really want to be there. We're actually maybe hoping if we win this thing, and there's a prize package, we just haven't seen how it's defined yet. And we're kind of hoping that maybe some of that could put that over the top for a round or two.
You got to come back in the real world. They want to pop at you now. If you continue this run you're having, you're gonna have to put on your big boy suit and go racing.
Well, and I've raced most of those guys in TA2. Like I've Merrill and I have a really friendly rivalry. We actually work together a lot. That growing up, so I know Matos really well. Like I know that whole group. I've even helped out a little bit, like when Ave was driving for Blaze, I even helped out with some stuff for Tony, because I drove for Tony in the P3.
Yeah.
So I know everybody and I know the players. I just haven't gotten to drive one yet. So we keep trying to make it happen. Just, unfortunately, the financial realities never quite worked. So we're kind of hoping some of the exposure from this, and maybe if there's a prize package, some of it can go towards that, and maybe we can get out there and do some TA2 races. If I could pick one, it'd be VIR.
Yeah, great track.
Or Laguna.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, that's in December, so you've got time on that one. Tell me a little bit about your coaching, because that does fascinate me. So many of you guys use coaching as a way of sort of, paying the bills and, also keeping your eye in, I'm sure. But tell me about who you're coaching, because some of your rivals at the moment, you're actually in the real world coaching as well, yeah?
Yeah, actually, right now in our series, I'm coaching Kent Vaccaro in Formula 3 and was in Formula 4. I'm also the race engineer for him there. I kind of fill multi-roles, and it's fun to see him come race up here.
So how's he getting on? I've been following Kent in F3 and F4 for the last couple of years, and he's making good progress.
Yeah, it was amazing, especially the first year, the progress he made, because I believe when I got there, he'd never been in the top 20 or so. it was not all his fault. There was some engineering stuff on the car that really, really need to get done. And the team's really put together better now. So we're really developing that too. I help on that side a little bit too. But by the end of the year, we sat on the pole. We had one race where we had an issue and we came from dead last to sixth with 2 yellows that slowed us down. The yellows actually hurt us. We got a couple poles in F3 last year, a couple podiums. We should have won a couple races. I'm still a little miffed about that. We had some mechanical failure. We were breaking front wings without hitting anything. So while leading the race.
That
happened. Yeah, that happened twice to us. They finally figured out what that was, but we were the crash test dummy, so to speak, there.
And I mean, just a little bit about Formula 3, Formula 4. I've been keeping a very watchful eye on that. I do the Toyota Racing Series every year, and I know the Road to Indy very well. But there seems to be a real robust depth of field in Formula 4 especially, but now Formula 3 is starting to gain some thing. I mean, it's looking good for young kids at the moment with the opportunity and the backing of Honda and so on.
Yeah, it is. It's really growing. And the nice thing, especially Formula 4, is very, very cost controlled. And Formula 3, while not inexpensive, it is inexpensive for the car you get.
Yeah.
So, and the nice thing about it too is the Formula 3 especially is quick enough that some more stuff transfers to different cars. Formula 4, I call it the Super Miata. It is underpowered, which I understand why, but the driving style from the F4s doesn't really necessarily translate to bigger stuff. But you could see in the F3 car, we put Kent in the TA2 car with Blaze last year, and in his debut, we ran the top 10 the whole weekend, which was pretty good, and it was one of the deeper races. We had the NASCAR guys there. So we ended up in the top 10 with all the NASCAR guys. I think we ended up 7th because a lot of the driving stuff still translates across.
Yeah.
And of course, that's actually part of the reason I brought in the TA2 was kind of like F3. For what you get for the budget is fantastic. It's by far the best bang for the buck in professional motorsports on pavement in North America.
Well, that's it. I mean, there's no question, having grown up in the UK and watched the British F3 and seeing now the emergence of the FIA F3, the price point is so good in comparison for a relatively similar car, well, almost identical. Yeah. So the States is a really good option these days for good tracks, good price point, and a lot of seat time.
And a good prize package. If you can win, it's an Indy Lights seat. Yeah. So that's huge. It's just like the Road to Indy deal, except a little more FIA centric, which is good, especially if you have the budget to go to Europe, you can very comfortably go to a race over there. And it's exposed to all the U.S. racing. So if the Formula car ladder is not panning out for you and you need to go learn GT cars, that's when we bring them over to TA2 and start doing that. I'm actually really looking forward to trying to do more coaching work and bringing more of the young kids. Look at Southern. I'm not involved with them, but look at Southern also coming from F3 to TA2. I think that's a pipeline you're going to see occur more and more often because it's just what you get for your money. So if the Formula car thing stalls out on you, which it's very momentum centric.
Well, let me ask you this: when you're talking to Kent and any other whoever else you're coaching, what's the fundamental difference in terms of technique for driving a twitchy single-seater like a go-kart stroke F4 car compared to an actual Trans Am car, TA2?
It's kind of funny. It depends on the driver a little bit. If certain driving styles translate, like weirdly enough, my driving style doesn't. I tend to do the same actions in a front-wheel drive touring car, a GT car, a TA car, and a Formula car at the same places. However, it feels really different.
Yeah.
So if you can get over how different it feels and still do essentially the same actions, it still works. But a lot of people they react to what they feel more than what the car is asking. So there's a lot of that other than, in the TA2, the braking zones are longer and you actually have to shift your butt. Something was anymore. But the driving styles are a lot more similar than people give credit. You still have the same tools. It's more about the racing is a lot different. You can actually follow in traffic. Release is still the same. A lot of the stuff, physics don't change just because the car is heavier. It just changes the timing of everything.
Yeah.
So it's more about the timing change than actually about a giant technique difference, and getting comfortable with how different it's going to feel. That, and the one other thing, it's more of the TA tire. The TA2 and the chassis. The TA2, you need to be comfortable with the car moving around more. Not just laterally, but it constantly just kind of moves around, and that's okay. Where if you feel that going on in the Formula car, you're about to have a giant accident. So it's getting comfortable that, it's going to move. Yeah, you think you're pushing, but no, it needs to be moving more. Push harder.
Now, listen, Josh, at this point, I feel I should warn you because I didn't want to stop you in mid-flow, but a rather large-ish tiger crawled just behind you on the couch. And I mean, Tiger King and everything. There's all sorts of things going on at the moment. I worry about, round 5 of the championship. I just want you aware you have a tiger in your house.
Yeah, we have our little house. We call her the house lion because there's a documentary called Lion in Your House that we just watched, actually. So she's our little house lion, and the dog, though she hates the dog. The dog loves her. She hates the dog. Fortunately, I don't know how this happened. They both seem to know when I'm on the sim, they leave me alone. I've only had the cat cause 1 crash in like 10 years.
So let's talk about the future. You've got a weekend off, but you're not going to take a weekend off. And again, I'm trying to give hope to your competitors. You've got a maybe niggling injury?
Yeah, hopefully I don't make it worse. But we have this weekend off. We're not racing, though we are racing in Trans Am next weekend at Riverside, which I'm super excited. But still, and doing nothing. There's a socially distant dirt car race in my hometown, and I race micro sprints and trying to race real sprint cars and stuff on the side because I like racing everything. I think the more different things you race, the better you get. And not gonna lie, I've fallen in love with the dirt oval side of things. It's so much different, and there's so much to learn. So I've been slamming getting the car together, but unfortunately, maybe I'm getting old. I woke up yesterday and my neck and back hurt a little bit. So I did the responsible thing and made sure to work on the dirt car for 10 to 12 hours. And that did not help it.
No.
It was much worse. I couldn't really walk so well yesterday. Today I'm able to get up and around, and there's one good sign. I texted my dirt car crew chief, his name is Chris, texted him saying, well, I hurt myself, I think, but only one thing makes it feel better. For some reason, like I drove my wife to work today. When I turn left, everything feels better. So seeing I'm about to go on an oval race.
Perfect.
Exactly. So turning right really doesn't feel good right now, but I can turn left with the best of them. So hopefully,
if Kenseth doesn't turn out to be a good replacement, you've got a chance.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly. I would kill to get in a stock car. I really want to give that a go too. But yeah, we're gonna go race with those dirt car boys, and we're starting to get pretty competitive. We actually led, I think, 3 of our last 4. But there's one thing in motorsports I can't do well. I'm not a good mechanic.
Right.
So we suffered mechanical failures every one of the races we've led.
Oh gosh, that's no fun.
So we're getting there, especially considering we're only 10 races in, but we're getting there.
So what about Riverside makes you so excited? I know it's a classic, but what particularly?
I've never been there.
Right.
That's the best part. I mean, it's so rare to get to drive something you've never driven before, at least once you've raced and road racing for as long as I'm now. That it's just refreshing to do something different and something old school and not another Tilcadrome. Sorry, don't love them. That was part of the reason why I wasn't particularly Barcelona excited. It's a great test track, and actually it was fun to drive, but the racing on it's hard for our cars.
Yeah.
And it's nice to go, we have this great tool where we can relive the past a little bit. And I think that would be really fun. Now, what I really want Trans Am to do, if you guys are hearing this, Mr. Glaggett, let's do a classic car and a classic track for a finale.
Well, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility. I know that they're looking into it, and I know that the tentacles of Talk Motorsport have that within their powers. So I think we keep pushing that agenda because I'm right with you on that.
Yeah, we have a great tool to do stuff that we can't really do. We can race at Riverside. We can race at, if I were going to pick a track for fun to drive, the racing would be a little rough. I'd love to do Macau.
Yeah, well, you're talking to the official Macau commentator here, so I'm ready for that. I know those corners very well.
And one of my good racing buddies has qualified on pole at Macau, so I can get some info there. Kevin Gleason. Well, Kevin Gleason qualified on pole there in the TCR car.
I
And
did
Kevin
the
and I
race.
we were teammates at APR for years, so maybe I can get a little info out of him. But yeah,
That's interesting. What is Kevin doing now? Because I did 2 years of his TCR Asia Championship, and he was the lone American out there in Asia, and I didn't know him per se, but obviously talking about him, it was exciting to have somebody from the States to kind of compare how Asia racing was coming forward.
He did a little bit of a World Touring Car. He actually, I think his last race he ever did, he got a podium in World Touring Car in the Lada, which is a phrase that very few people get to say. Podium, Lada, and World Touring Car is a very unusual sentence.
Yep.
And an American on an FIA podium. But
Yes.
I think after that, just he was really hoping when they did the World Touring Car to the TCR switch, since he'd won in TCR and in World Touring Car, he was hoping he'd get a manufacturer seat, and it just didn't out. And I think he's back working a normal job, which hopefully he's happy. I haven't spoken to him in a little while, but I think that's really what stopped it. But I really tried hard to get in that TCR thing. That's a really, really neat series. I hope it keeps growing. Hopefully this COVID thing doesn't hurt it too much.
Yeah. Well, listen, Josh, I got a couple of questions. I'm always interested. What's the daily drive? What do you get around California in?
Well, me and my wife share one car.
Okay.
Because I'm a little weird. I'm a race car guy. I love race cars. I hate driving on the street so much. So my normal day to drive is nothing. I usually walk or bike everywhere. I walk on an average, when we're not shut down, I walk on an average of like 12 miles a day.
Wow.
Bank, lunch, errands, dog walking, all that. But we share one pickup truck, one 2018 Ram, because her car finally got rid of it. I hated her car, and I had to have something that could tow the dirt car.
Cool.
So I conned the wife and said, instead of getting one junky truck and one kind of okay car, let's just get one really nice truck. So she drives that to work every day, and other than today, I took her to work because I got to go to Fastenal to pick up more stuff for the dirt car. So I took her off to work, and I'll go pick her later. So that's the driver. I know it's not the most exciting.
No, it's great. I'm always interested. So listen, it's the smack talk part of the interview here, which is we're halfway around the series. You're leading by 10 points over Tyler Casera. Ernie Francis Jr. is right there. Merrill's right there. JP Southern's right there. Your boy Kent's not far away. What do you feel? What's your message for the second half of the season?
Dear Lord, let me survive the reverse grid races.
Well, you and Tyler have done. I think that's been the key to the championship, is the fact that you're both willing to push hard to get into a position of, in the reverse grid to pick up points, but you're not over trying it.
Well, it's kind of funny. I'm being more aggressive than I want to be.
Right.
Partially because if you look at the way it's worked out now, when it's out now, it's kind of become a little bit of a 2-horse race because Ernie has enough of a hurdle to overcome. I think we have so once you get farther back, once you get beyond like 5th or 6th, it's only 1 point per position.
Yeah.
So that really lets you take some risk, especially if you run up front in race 1, you get bonus points. You get qualifying points for you.
Yeah.
So it really, really gives you if you get that podium in race 1, it really gives you a little bit of a cushion to push extra hard. Like Barcelona, I'm sure people thought I was pushing pretty hard, but the risk reward, even if you get knocked off track with a damaged car, I think Tyler and I both brought a really damaged car home in 7th.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you really destroy your race, a top 7 or 10 is pretty doable. So at worst, it kind of feels like you're only going to lose 2 or 3 points. So you have to go out there and get every point you can, because that's what he's going to do. Because even if you get crashed out, he's not going to lose so many points. Like you crashed at 7. Tyler and I apparently touched, at Daytona, and he still finished 5th. So no one falls down that far. So you really have to push through it and really take the risk, because he can just accumulate points if you're going forward. You can't just do what I would have liked to do. I was hoping you could just mellow out, take that 7th or 8th. But it's so close, and the risk is so relatively low because the cars don't get totally destroyed, that you have to just keep pushing and getting every little point. It's where I'd rather try to make that pass and get 2 points on Tyler, because at worst I'm going to lose 1.
Yeah.
So like at Barcelona, I took it wasn't even a risky pass. I'm still a little upset. Around the outside of Montoya, I think he turned right on the exit, just saying. But the risk was I would lose like 1 spot to Tyler, or maybe 2, so 2 points. But if I got by him, I could have left him in that pack, and I think I could have gotten 2 more cars. So I'm risking 1 point to get 2 or 3.
Well, you know, the truth of that story is, I mean, I remember the incident you're talking about, and he was trying to be as wide as he possibly could and as dogged as he possibly could not to let you by. But I've got a feeling his coach, you may have heard of him, was right behind him in that sim, because they just done another sim race. So a certain Juan Pablo may well have been the reason why he couldn't get past young Sebastian so quickly.
I know him. We have the same attorney. Juan's attorneys helped me out a lot when I was racing in Europe and stuff, because with South Florida karting, it's very IndyCar centric. So I've in fact my first go-kart race ever, I qualified behind Juan's little brother. So I know, I'm like, okay, he's gonna race. You know, I expected the very robust defense. I'm not even upset about that. Defend European style. I grew up racing with Brazilians. Let's bring it on.
Yeah.
No problem. I know they're Colombian, but that's South American racing style.
Yes, exactly.
Bring it on. I'm fine with that. Just the I don't know if it was a mistake. It could have been netcode. The turning right, that part, still a little upset about. I get that was totally twisted. That's actually one of the big challenges we have right now, I think Tyler and I face, is we have a very large influx of the Formula Car kids.
Yeah.
And some of them aren't necessarily in the points battle.
Right.
And they're racing us, it feels like, a little extra hard because they know we have something to lose and they don't.
Well, I interviewed Juan Manuel Correa, and really impressive to see him getting back into racing after that horrific injury.
Yeah.
But his 4th place in race 1, he is racing with just his left leg.
Yeah. And I'm guessing a throttle on the hand?
No.
Oh, he's using just one leg on both?
Yeah.
Wow, that's super impressive.
Yep.
Now I kind of want to try it.
Well, he's looking at various other things, and obviously Wickens has the sort of the two-sided ones. But yeah, it's each to his own. But I stupidly said, "Are you going to go?" So now you've got your left foot dialed in, are you going to change the pedals on your real racing car? And he said, "Nah, I don't think so."
Yeah, that's super impressive. He blew me away with how good he was, which shouldn't be that surprising. He has a lot of experience and probably decent sim experience too. But I did not know he was only left legging it. Though if I had to pick one foot, I think that's the one I'd pick. That said, I'm weird-handedness, so. Sure. Everything that's full limb, like I throw right-handed, but I right-left. So I'm a little.
Well, Josh, as you know, we've got, I think, somewhere in the region of 20 grand's worth of prizes to give out at Laguna Seca in December. And there's also a real-world Trigon Trophy up for grabs. So that'll look good on the mantelpiece.
It would. I still have to get my ones from Florida. All my other ones are still in the in-laws' house. But that would look really good up there. But I think the prize package might be more interesting, because maybe we can make a win in the sim, win in real world thing happen.
There, now we're talking. Okay, I like the way you're talking.
That's what we want to happen.
Well, you put it out there into the ether.
Yeah, come on, John, help us out, make it happen.
There you go. Well, listen, Josh, you're doing a great job. It's very entertaining watching you and Tyler go head to head. I hope it continues. Stay safe and look after the dogs and cats. And we will see you at the next round 5.
Yeah, I can't wait. Hopefully the race this weekend goes well too. Hopefully we can do as well in the dirt as we're doing in the sim.
Yes, good luck with the dirt practice. Turn left so you won't hurt yourself, because that's where it doesn't hurt. And so I like that. That's a good, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we'll keep the rubber side down.
What could go wrong?
Well, last time I did end up upside down directly in front of my crew.
Oh, that's not good.
And dirt racing, that happens.
Yeah, true. Well, listen, Josh, thanks so much for spending some time with us. We'll get this out, and we will see you in action next time round.
That sounds great. See you then.
Thanks, Josh.